Welcome to another episode of AI Product Leader. Every week we shine a light on what it really takes to join the AI world. We have the real conversations with founders, product leaders, AI experts, technologists, and everything in between to understand where the AI world is right now and what the path looks like, whether you're building AI products or building an AI career. Have questions on any of the topics we're talking about? Email us at support@AI Career Boost and join in on the conversation. Let's dive into the AI world together. I'm your host, Polly Allen, and I'm the founder of AI Career Boost, where I spend my time helping people pivot into careers in AI and navigating the world of AI, transitioning into leadership roles. I've spent my career both the product management and software development worlds, and I'm an ex-Alexa principal product manager, where I successfully launched the first generative AI answers on Alexa. I was fortunate enough to be recognized as a top 100 Women of the Future winner in 2023. So welcome to the podcast. And today I am super excited to be joined by Cantera. She's an extraordinary designer specializing in AI UX, conversational AI, and voice UI, with a focus on enhancing user experiences in education, healthcare, and hospitality, and has a proven track record of creating innovative and user-friendly AI-driven products, from developing the well-loved culinary chatbot Julia GPT to designing inclusive edtech solutions for neurodivergent learners. Her work stands out for its empathy and technical prowess. A passionate advocate, devoted mom, and lover of all things nerd, unique blend of professional expertise and personal interests make her truly inspiring as a guest and also as someone I get to interact with day to day at AI Career Boost. Welcome, Anne.
Thank you, Polly. You make me sound much cooler than I actually am.
How are you doing today? What's going on in Anne's world today?
Um, well, the usual, I would say. Work, building chatbots, networking, mentoring, teaching, um,
Busy lady.
navigating, having a neurodiverse kid. The usual day to
The
day.
usual.
Working on the book, trying to teach everybody who isn't in tech about AI and the pitfalls, the good stuff, the bad stuff, how to make their life easier, all that kind of good, the bad, and the ugly of AI.
You are going to sleep at some point today,
I
right?
do sleep. Self care,
Good.
I'm old enough to know that self care is important.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'm especially curious to hear more about the book, and we'll get there in a second. So, but here's where I wanted to start. Before you got into AI, you've got a very interesting and diverse background. So I just wanted to hear a little more about your background before you got into AI.
Sure. Um, so I went to the Culinary Institute of America at 17. I was the youngest student there when I got there in 1825. And
You and Hamilton
yeah,
go way back.
that's right. And then after that, after I got out and I worked for a while and I realized how brutal that industry was, I went to school for web and graphic design. I did an 18-month certificate program way back in the day, in the early 2000s. And then I had a baby, and then I had another baby, and then my husband started his business, and then I had another baby, and then I started my business. So I was busy with kids and
Yeah.
business. You can be a stay-home mom and have a career at the same time. So, yeah, my husband was running his construction business. I've had a couple of stints with, I was a cake artist for a while because I just love creating things and building things and
Oh my gosh. Especially cake. Sign
well,
me up.
and just color and design. Like I've
Mm.
always had my
Yep,
hands in
yep.
some, I do interior design, I did restaurant design, menu design. I've always designed. I was raised by an art teacher, and I think that, and an engineer, and I really think that impacted the way I looked at everything. My dad was teaching me about UX without even knowing it was UX when I was 3, 4 years old. He
Oh.
would be like, "You see how they do that? That's not the way to do it. We do it this way, and we do it like this."
Do you have an example? Like, was it
It's
like
kind of it's a
physical thing?
sad example, but on his deathbed, he is sitting in
Dramatic
the bed.
example.
Sitting with me, and he just looks around and he goes, you and me could design every single thing in this room better than it is right now. Like one of the last thoughts
Wow.
was how badly, because you're very uncomfortable. Think about it. You're
Yeah.
in the hospital. You're not well. You got the thing beeping behind you. You got the thing in your arm. The IV isn't long enough. You're pulling on. I mean, the blankets get all like everything.
Yeah.
Like, I think his own comfort may have contributed to his need to UX the world, so the world was a more comfortable place for him. But either way, I was brought up to think about how things worked, how things were designed, how they were performed, how to make it better. And then on the other half of my life was pottery and mosaics and painting and charcoal. And
Mm,
so it was kind of the perfect
awesome.
storm for me to land where I landed. But I feel like I got really a lot of business chops from my husband's business. The construction business is rough.
Mm.
I feel like, I hear people get down on themselves about, maybe not having an MBA or something like that. And I think I got two MBAs. They might not be real, but
They may
the
not be,
lessons
yeah, they may not be
learned,
endorsed on paper, but
yeah, the lessons learned from having your own business. And it
so
makes
true.
me a very conscientious designer when I'm thinking about um, not every designer has business chops and thinks about how much is this meeting costing per hour, and how this is taking too long. We need to speed this up, find a sense of
Yeah.
urgency. So it definitely has made me a more business minded designer, which I think a lot of companies want that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think it especially helps if you know you can empathize the product. You empathize with the user, but also make sure you're accomplishing the business goals too, right? I mean,
Yeah.
kind of important as well.
Yeah, it's good to tick all, as many boxes as you can. It makes you more valuable and it helps you move up quicker, I think. And that's it. That's
So
the
speaking of valuable, what you do today, incredibly valuable at LexisNexis. So you're a
Mhm.
conversational designer. Can you just walk us through like what is a conversational, like a voice UX designer in this
Sure.
AI space, especially? Like what are you doing day to day?
So let me just say ahead of time, so the opinions are my own, not of
Yeah.
LexisNexis.
Totally fair. You can
um,
put a little asterisk at the bottom.
yeah. So I am heavily NDA'd, but from what you can glean from the term conversation designer, I consider myself more of a bot builder slash conversation designer slash AI trainer. Um, in the end, I was just saying to somebody today, I think we're going to end up being like conductors where we just are overseeing all the pieces and putting them all together for like that AI agent of the future that performs better than a human but doesn't pretend to be a human and has that
Mm,
super high accuracy level but isn't trying to pull the wool over your eyes and doesn't annoy people, right? Like so many interactions, especially chatbots, um, are just like, oh God, really? Like the eye roll, like, oh my, I'm stuck
yes.
in a loop. I've only been here 3 seconds and I'm already stuck in a loop. And that's
Someone asked the other day, like, why does it seem like all the corporate chatbots they're like something out of the '90s or something? Like they feel really cringy.
right. So the two contributing factors to my pivot was those terrible chatbot experiences and you. It was actually a post Rupa had made,
Yeah.
and it led me to you. And it was just like a divine moment where like I saw her post, and if it was a movie, like I would have lit up with the angel music in the background, and I was like, and that honestly, that moment of trusting my instinct and my personal pattern recognition and just kind of oneness with whatever, I knew right then and there it was like, oh, this is the path I need to go on. And honestly, I didn't really start getting any recruiter action until I made that pivot.
The pivot into AI
Yeah.
specifically. So you knew you wanted. So it was like bad chatbot interactions, but you hadn't worked in AI before. You just could see bad UX, right?
Yes. And I'm
So yeah,
compelled, thanks to my dad, it's like I must fix this. here I am thinking I could fix the whole everybody in the world chatbots, and I'm trying. I really am trying.
Totally. Well, walk us through that transition because now you certainly are an expert in specifically in AI and AI interaction, et cetera, and leading the charge, in making these not only just usable, but also, working in a way that is like healthy and protecting users, but healthy and protecting society too, like you're just
Yeah,
speaking about, right?
yeah. So I like to think that the pivot was there. Besides the chatbot interaction, besides you and Rupa getting me on the path. One of the things when I started your class was I had said to you, I was working on something and I felt like I was annoying you. Like, Polly, how do I do this? How do I do that? And I said, Polly, I might not be the smartest one in the room, but I am the most relentless. And you had said that's even more important, or in tech, that's more important.
Yeah,
And
true.
for me,
I
that
stand by that.
that bit of encouragement kind of gave me the hope and willingness to just die trying. And I was open. You have to be, if you're not comfortable with the pivot, if you're not comfortable with the change, I was open to just resign myself to eat, sleep, and breathe all things AI until I was expert level, which I don't consider myself an expert. I consider myself somebody who just learned and pivoted in public, and people relate to that.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about the technical. I'm trying. I learn about RAG. I look at the diagrams. I understand but I couldn't make that happen. So to me, those are the experts. But I do consider myself an expert in making things digestible for people.
Hmm.
Hence the math app that I've been working on for the neurodiverse kids. Making things like like that invisible bit of UX where like I use this as an example all the time. I got a red light ticket once, maybe more
Hmm.
than once, maybe like 3 or 4, but whatever.
That's funny.
And I went online to pay it, and it took like 3 minutes. And I was like, wow, that was really good.
Mm.
And it's most people who don't do UX are just like, all right, it's done. They might register that it was quick or less
Yeah.
of a nightmare than they anticipated. And I do pride myself in trying to build things that give you that, like, wow, that was smooth. That
An
was
emotional reaction, right?
Yeah,
That's what
that
I tend
that
to
was
notice sticks out to me is like, oh, wait, let me go back. What was it about that that made me actually like react positively or negatively? But
yeah.
like noticing your own emotional state when using something is like,
Yeah, or when you're anticipating it being a nightmare, like, oh my god, I do not want to go online and spend 20 minutes paying this ticket, and then it's 2 3 minutes, and you're like, oh, that was good.
what was your first reaction the first time you tried ChatGPT?
Uh,
Do you remember?
so I'm like an information addict. Like, I love being able to be like watching a TV show and being like, who is that? I know him from somewhere. And
Yeah.
then be like figuring out, like, oh, he was on Sons of Anarchy, or oh, he's from this, he's from that. So, and that's just one little tidbit, right? Like, anything I think of, I can get the answer to.
Yeah.
But now, not only can I get the answer, but I can have a whole conversation about it. Like, I
Mm.
love voice AI,
Yeah.
but I'm not going to pretend it's my boyfriend. It's like if I'm on a car ride, I'll conversate like, what should I make for dinner? What are some out of the box vegan recipes? What can I love being that constant flow of information. So when I
Yeah.
first tried ChatGPT, I thought, yeah, I can use this.
Yeah.
I
Instead of
didn't,
excitement. That's what I remember. And I tried lots of chatbots before that, lots of experimental, like Meta had put some out, that kind of thing. I don't know, but there's the combination of it being a certain level of good or creative or something. But even just the UX, the way it's like typing things out slowly, like it kind of let the excitement build. I
yes.
thought it was
And
interesting
in the
that we're like,
beginning, we didn't really know about hallucinations.
right.
So, it's like,
Or the general public didn't exactly
right,
research
right,
before,
right,
but yeah.
right. When you watch a really good show in the first episode, you're like, Wow, this is really good. And then 4 episodes in, you're like, it's not as good as I thought it was. You know? And I mean, it is, because now I know how to navigate the hallucinations. And
Hmm.
there are certain areas that I find it hallucinates way more than others. And I'm already finding it's hallucinating less in those areas.
Just with the new models that are
Yeah,
coming out.
like just
Yeah.
super niche, like I would ask it a lot of like very in-depth Figma questions, like about
Mm.
variables or things that are, things that had just released in Figma, and it would totally make stuff up, and it'd be like, oh well, click the eraser tool. And I'm like, there is no eraser tool in Figma. And
Yeah.
so it was things like that, but I never really experienced it in any way that I thought was dangerous. But then I did read about the attorneys who had used it for like casework, and it hallucinated the whole thing, and they went into
Yeah.
court and like embarrassed themselves. And I was like,
Yeah.
who?
Yeah. There's a lot of.
Glad I didn't do that.
But let's talk more about your journey too, that path.
Okay.
So you had started the first AI course. One of the first AI courses you took was the course with that Rupa Chaturvedi and I have.
Yeah.
The we were on Maven at that point, right?
Yeah.
Conversational AI. And then from there you did the Blueprint program next, correct?
Yep. I
That's
did.
right.
I did that, and I think what a lot of people don't understand about taking courses like this is the community you get from it.
Mm.
I mean, I talk to so many people to this day in the Slack from your class, and
Mm,
they all have like their different areas of expertise. So when I'm like, oh, I need to ask somebody a question about ed tech or whatever, I have this group that's
yeah.
separate from my LinkedIn group. Like LinkedIn is super surface, but when you go through a boot camp in a class, I don't want to call it a boot camp because it's more than a boot camp. When you go through this class with somebody, you develop a rapport with each other that's a little different than like a surface level LinkedIn kind of thing. And one of the things that I love the most about it was the chats about what changed since we saw each other the week before,
Mm-hmm.
because the fast paced changes. I mean, I don't think I've seen anything like the introduction of the internet. It was crazy. I don't think it moved as fast as this. Mobile wasn't
Right.
as
We
fast.
can share information much more quickly now than we could back then. So it's
Yeah.
like,
So it feels like you're just every day you're like, oh my god, I missed 10 things. And to be able to
yeah.
have, it's almost like a support group, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
you can talk about and
Okay.
hash out what was important, what wasn't, what do we need to pay attention to, what are our takeaways, and to do that in a group,
Yeah.
and especially in a group of people that have tech backgrounds and aren't like, day one, the 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 insights are really valuable because they're
Yeah.
coming
It
from
had
this,
diversity.
this this combination of people with different backgrounds. So that was one of the things I don't think people realize that they get out of a program like that. And so, all right, so I took that class, the two classes with you guys.
Yeah. And you started, I remember Julia was one of the capstone projects you did. Like we
Julia was
did.
my capstone. Yep.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's part of your portfolio today. You were
Yep.
then on a journey. I've heard you call it your PhD in portfolios.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I spent a lot of time. I rebuilt my portfolio from top to bottom 3 times. And I mean, the last rebuild took 6 months.
Yeah.
It wasn't, a quick, and I wasn't working at the time. So, I think I have some, because of my relentlessness and, dare I say, obsessive personality. I'm the type, when you put me on a path, I need to learn everything there is to know about the things on those
Mm.
paths. But for portfolios, it was like, if I don't make mine the cream of the crop, nobody's going to look at me, and that's true to this day, if not worse than it was when I did it.
It's tough for design in particular right now.
Yeah, and
It's
I
tough.
and I've
So,
had like hiring managers show me recent hires and their portfolios, and they're always the best of the best. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, right now, if you're not in that upper echelon, you're not even going to get looked at. And I just like I knew I had to pursue AI early, I knew that I just needed to make my portfolio sing.
Yeah.
I did my
And but like
best.
that, but having functional prototypes, I think, helped you stand out as
For
well,
sure.
right?
And one of the things that really made me want to take your course was having somebody hold my hand through my first capstone.
Mm.
Because and I see this with a lot of new students who come in. They want to build this chat experience that normally would take a team, right? Like a whole team of people. And I was the same. Like, I'm going to build the best culinary chatbot anybody's ever seen. And it took a lot more time. I still tune her up now. I still make
Yeah.
little tweaks and changes. That's the nature of a chatbot. I feel like it's just always evolving. But knowing I had you and other people in the class, and it was just so inviting to me to try and build these bots to get on my portfolio with a team.
Yeah.
Because
I remember that your group in particular was super engaged. People were like, "Hey, let's meet up on Friday as accountability buddies for an
yeah,
hour, like work
yeah, you were
together
the
in
first one
tandem."
through. Yeah,
Totally,
yeah.
exactly. And
Uh,
what I love too, when you were saying about people keeping like each other up to date, I just remember feeling like as the leader, like, oh my gosh, there's all this pressure for me to know everything. And it was really
yeah.
great to see people like, there's too much for one person to know, but when you have a group, there's a person coming in who like people have different perspectives, or if nobody knows, you're like, is it actually as important as I think? Maybe not,
You
right?
have to
Like,
have a really strong BS detector with, even, and I know some people think it's important, but it's like, oh, ChatGPT is 4.2 at blah blah blah, and Gemini is 4.8. Blah, blah. To me, I equate it to that horrible show called Toddlers and Tiaras. And it's like, let's take these little things in their infancy and compare their dance moves and critique them.
I love that analogy. It's so
It's like
true.
you're horrible. They're babies right now. They're
And especially if it's like, and this one is particularly bad at the twist.
yeah, and
Like
it's like
when people like
why
you're not doing that. Like why does this? It's not relevant to
they're
your use
infants.
case.
Leave
Like,
them alone. Just let them grow without constantly comparing them. So that was my analogy for that,
oh, I love
and
it.
I really don't pay a lot of attention to that. And I pay attention. One of my famous lines. I have a couple of them, but one of my famous lines is, "I'll believe it when I can use it."
Oh yes, 100%,
Yeah,
100%. Especially after like there's been a couple demos now where everyone's
big
flipped
fake
out
demos. Yeah,
and they're like, oh, we got very limited beta users can use. It's because it doesn't work.
right. It's because it was a video.
Yep.
So that keep that one in mind. Believe it when you can use it. I actually commented that a few times this past week after Google stole AI's thunder. After it was like they did their big demo, and then the next day Google did theirs, and it was like, oh my goodness, OpenAI didn't get all the fun. They had the thunder stolen right out from underneath them. And every time somebody posted about the Google one, I said, I'll believe it when I can use it. And a lot of people are like that. Like a lot of
Yeah,
people feel that and
for
have
sure.
to, you know, manage your expectations, like let's be realistic about what's going to happen next.
Oh,
So once I got Julia up and running, I had a lot of help. I had a lot of help from some dev guys in the voice flow Discord.
hmm.
I always joke that I would hang out in the dark corners of Discord to make friends with developers that would help me. And they did, and she is on my website. And it's funny because she must be a good bot because I know a lot about food and cooking, and I spent my first half of my life in that business. And I'll still hop on my own website to use Julia for I went vegan like 5 months ago, so I'll jump on there and be like, Julia, I need some, a vegan food plan for the weekend or whatever. And
Oh yeah, because she's a culinary bot, right?
yeah,
There was some main workflows. It was about like help me find
recipes,
substitutes and
yeah, recipes, shopping lists. That was one of the things I learned in my research is people really need help managing their shopping lists.
yeah.
And then my dream was after she generates your shopping list, you can add it to your cart, and whoever your delivery service is, anybody out there listening, like call me. Um, that was my idea. And so once I got her up and running and I got her on my portfolio, I did a really nice case study and showed all my work, and then showed it to recruiters to make sure. Like, I think a lot of people make that mistake with their portfolio. They user test on the wrong people.
Mm,
Like, the recruiters are the ones you're building this for. Talk to them, and that really
yeah.
made a big difference in a lot of my decisions. And then ages ago, one of my first apps that I built as a capstone was another food related. It was a restaurant and bakery ordering,
Yeah.
and in the early days I knew I wanted it to be a voice application, but had no idea that I could even eventually do that. So I did it as a rebuild, and that was my second AI or chat or voice, whatever you want to call it, on my portfolio that really helped. And then I started building bots for freelance, and that's where you really learn a lot of lessons is building things freelance. You learn about people's business and how to handle them and things like that. And finally, Lexus scooped me up, and I couldn't be happier. Honestly,
It's
people talk about
fantastic.
their dream jobs, but you don't really realize your dream job is directly connected to how cool, nice, understanding, smart, and brilliant in general your boss is. And I have been super fortunate in that way that both my bosses are spectacular, and
Oh, fantastic.
I just got really lucky. I really, I mean,
Well,
I
you
put
worked
in the
very
work.
hard and were very determined.
Yes, relentless, determined, and but really, I see so many people out there trying so hard just to get an interview, and I over empathize because I was them for over a year, and it was really not getting one response is so hard emotionally.
Yeah.
But like I said, now I feel bad saying this because so many people are suffering. I have recruiters reach out to me almost every other day.
That's amazing. Do you think is it based on your portfolio? Are they
I
hearing
think
you?
it's because there's so few conversation designers, which is funny
Oh,
because I don't think that term is even going to exist eventually.
mm-hmm.
That's why I always jokingly kind of say, well, yeah, conversation design, bot builder, AI trainer, whatever you want to
Yeah.
call me, as long as I keep having a job to go to, you call me whatever you want. But it's such a hot space right now, and they want people with some experience. So it's like, oh, the hiring practices are just not in great
Broken.
shape.
They're breaking right now, for
Yeah,
sure.
but so they'll want somebody with, like, I always joke they want 12 years of experience in Figma, but it's only been around for 9 years.
Right. They want 12 years experience in chat GPT
Yeah,
specifically.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that was so I becoming something in high demand that there aren't a lot of people doing is
Yeah.
what changed it for me.
Amazing. Amazing. And well, I think it's so important that, like, if you had started from a place of thinking, oh, AI designer, conversation designer, I guess I need to go learn Python, learn to program, go back to school and do a computer science degree. Like, none of those were the things, right? It's actually getting hands on and building with it that gets you a job building with it. Is that fair?
Well, at least in my experience, yeah. I mean, think about it. If you took a computer science, you got a master's in computer science 20 years ago, what portion of that is still relevant? Like, tech
Yeah.
is rolling and changing, and like, if you're not constantly seeking out the new ways, the new information, you're going to get left behind. And that's why when I see the mandatory linguistic or mandatory degree, I roll my eyes like, great
What are
if
they
you did
doing?
it. Um, I have an associate's in culinary arts, but I do have, I think, nine classes that I've taken in the past few couple of years, few certifications, but honestly, the proof is in the pudding. Build
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Go build things.
Go build things.
Put them out there for the world to see. And if people tell you they're not good, go make it better.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Exactly.
it's you have to. I had a very thick skin from the restaurant business does that to you. But when I rebuilt my portfolio for the second time, and it took a few months, and I had showed it to somebody, a creative director at a big company who did not mince words, it was like a knife in the heart. But he stuck with me until he said, "You're up against tens, and you're a four." And I was like, "Oh God, it was painful
So
to me."
depressing.
So right, but I was like, "Fine, watch me go. I'll be a
Yeah.
10 in no time." And I was just like, "All right, I did this." Yeah, he helped coach me to tenness.
Yeah.
Um,
So awesome. When you can find that feedback, it's such a gift, right?
yeah, exactly. But people get really hurt by it, and you
Hmm.
have to separate like that part of your heart from it's not you. It's this work,
Exactly.
and and you can. It's really hard not to attach your heart to your work, but if this feedback works and next levels you, push that pain is going to turn into progress. So push through it, you know.
Oh,
So yeah,
fantastic.
so that was it. Those were the three. So it was my capstone, Julia GPT. It was the one that was called Biz Baker. That's the other one, the voice activated um, restaurant slash bakery ordering, and that came about because I would be making wedding cakes, and my hands would be covered in buttercream, and I would jokingly yell out into the room, "Hey Siri, order more sugar for me," and it wasn't Alexa, it was Siri for some
Yeah.
reason, and I
I'm
knew
not offended.
she couldn't.
It's okay.
I don't know. I knew full well she couldn't do it, but in that moment I was like, "Oh, somebody needs to design that."
Hmm.
And then I was like, all right, I can do that. I can design that.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, and when we solve for real need and real problems, we tend to make things that people connect to, and I think people connect to food. Like I use a lot of food analogies when I teach. People understand it, they connect to it, and I think that might be part of the reason why people would see the work on my portfolio and kind of relate to the things I built. And I still build things outside just to tinker. I'm a tinkerer. I like to build things. Like I don't want to manage people and create meetings and do all that management that I've done. I want to build things, and I want to
Yeah.
build things that make people go wow. So that's kind of that's what got me to the point where somebody saw my resume, saw my portfolio, interviewed me, and said, because Lexus has a great process
Yeah.
for hiring, um, and that was it. That was the
Fantastic.
like I got the happy ending, fully remote, you know,
Amazing.
great benefits, yeah. But it was a long road, but. You have to be open. You have to be open to the pivot. I find a lot of people are not open to the pivot.
And now also you're sharing your wisdom with others. I've been so glad to be able to bring you on as a fellow at AI Career Boost as our resident portfolio ninja sorceress, particularly as other disciplines are trying to actually get into the portfolio business, right? I've been seeing a rise of that. I think, have you been seeing a rise in people outside of design saying, hey, I need to stand out too in the job market?
Yeah,
How do I
it's
put
like your
together a
digital
portfolio?
calling card now, I feel like,
Yeah.
Um, and it's not for everybody. It takes a lot of either money to pay somebody to design it for you or energy to learn, like Figma and Framer are my two go-tos for websites. Um, but if there are 1,000 people applying for a job and three of them have portfolios, I think that gives them a leg up.
Yeah.
If it's a PM or somebody who doesn't normally have a portfolio,
Mm-hmm.
and if you have a website on your resume, I think it's intriguing. Like, this is something. This is the next level. This is extra attention to detail. This is standing out. Like all
Yeah.
those things that they say, in this job market you need to do. And hey, when the job market comes back, all right. So you have a website. What's so bad about that? You
Yeah.
put in the extra effort when you needed it, and
People understand your thinking, right? Because that's what I love. Even conversational design portfolios have a lot about like, here's the research, here's how I boiled it down, here's how I thought about it, here's how I iterated. It's the same process that a designer would use. You're just going through the product steps instead of design steps.
right. And I think what a lot of people kind of joke about is that how portfolios are too clean, too cookie cutter, too much the same. Like show. I always tell people all the time, show the mess.
Mm.
Show the mess. One of my we lost our research team 2 weeks in. That's reality. Like show reality. Like anybody who's hiring knows once you get past the recruiter, once the hiring manager starts looking through your work, they know nothing is perfect or easy. And you need to show that and what you did to fix it, how you pivoted, what was your process like. I have so I user tested with recruiters after I learned, you know, test with who you're building for, and I got completely different insights than all the UX people that I showed my portfolio. It was interesting because most of the UX people I would show my portfolio to would give me completely opposing feedback from each other.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
once I started testing with recruiters, um, the feedback became consistent,
Yeah.
and
And
I
that's
was
really
like,
great advice. Again,
yeah,
like think about who is this for, right? Know
right.
your user.
Yeah, so but I hope for everybody who is struggling, that the jobs start to come back, but I think,
You're seeing it if you're getting called by recruiters all the time that like if you have some skills and some expertise, you're in demand.
yeah, you have to. Well, I don't like to tell people you have to niche down, but I did niche down and it worked for me.
That's fantastic.
Yeah,
So
and
I
you.
think actually this is a great place to end. I love to ask people if you could in one sentence boil it down to like a short of 30 seconds or less. What advice would you give to someone wanting to join the world of AI right now?
Be open.
Be open,
Be open.
just
Yeah,
to
you can't.
possibilities.
Just be open to trying things that might seem hard. Be open to
Love it.
walking towards the things that make you uncomfortable. Be open to the fact that it's not going to be fast.
Yeah.
You know, that's it. That's and be relentless. But not everybody's wired to be relentless. So be as relentless as you can comfortably be.
Fantastic. Well, and we have time. We're wrapping up now. We have time for one more segment, and that is plugs. So, do you have anything that you want to plug this month? Any work you're doing? Anything you're looking for help on?
Well, we're always looking for mentors at TechFleet. TechFleet is a not-for-profit I volunteer with. We have 10,000 early designers in our Slack. And we're always looking for mentors to help volunteer with that. I've been working on a book. I don't want to say the title because it's not trademarked yet. But it's a book about AI for people from middle school to the nursing home.
Mm,
And it's really written in a way that's super digestible. I take very complicated things and make it very easy to understand. Lots of food analogies that people love. Um, so I've been shopping that. It's very hard to get published because so many fake AI books written by AI are out there.
yes.
So if anybody's looking for a real book, for not the tech industry but every single other person on the planet, call me. And my portfolio workshops through AI Career Boost. That I
That's
love
right.
teaching workshops. I love teaching a 2 hour workshop and hopefully making a difference and helping people, you know, get to where they're going a little more happily, comfortably, and painlessly. Yeah, I love to do that.
Well, thank you. And you do that. And it's so awesome. We're getting rave reviews. Thank you so much for being on the show
Thank
today,
you
too.
for having me and getting me on the path. And I mean, you're the reason Rupus Post and your classes are what got me to the point where I have everything I want.
Wow. Thank you
That's
so
a good
much.
plug.
Good plug for me.